to carry.
Is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin tonight with the fine print. In his State of the Union speech, President Bush called on Congress and the nation last night to go to war against economic hard times. In fact, he used exactly the same language he used a year ago when he demanded that Iraq get out of Kuwait. This recession, he said, will not stand. Today, Mr. Bush sent Congress the battle plan, 1,600 pages of charts and numbers that make up the budget that he wants Congress to enact. At the same time, the nation's leading banker sounded a note of caution. The chairman of the Federal Reserve, Alan Greenspan, says the economy may already have started to turn around. And he warned the president and the Congress not to get in the way. Here's ABC's Britt Hume.
On Capitol Hill today, to promote his program, the president received some assurance that his performance last night had at least rallied his own party behind him. Mr. Bush also spent some time with Democratic House Speaker Foley, but there was no indication Foley and his party are prepared to accept either the Bush program or his March 20th deadline for passing it.
Thank you for your hospitality. I appreciate it. Stay in touch.
Federal Reserve Chairman Greenspan, meanwhile, was telling Congress ever so cautiously that an economic upturn may now be at hand.
We are beginning to see some very subtle signs that the erosion in the economy is beginning to stabilize.
Greenspan gave Mr. Bush's recovery program the most backhanded sort of endorsement by saying it wasn't big enough to do any real harm by enlarging the deficit and thus pushing up interest rates, for example. But he warned both the White House and Congress against cooking up anything bigger.
The type of negotiations that could occur could create a much larger and potentially fiscally disruptive package.
The administration's economic team agreed today that the economy is poised to grow again, but they argued the Bush program would make the rate of growth even stronger.
2.2% this year and 3% next year. If the president's policies are not enacted, we expect the economy to do substantially worse than that.
The administration and the Federal Reserve Chairman are saying basically the same thing in slightly different ways. The administration thinks its modest program will help. The Federal Reserve Chairman thinks it can't hurt. And both agree that the economy's main lifeline and hope for growth is now the Federal Reserve and continued low interest rates. Britt Hume, ABC News, the White House.
The biggest surprise from the president last night for many people was his executive order requiring no agreement with Congress that the Internal Revenue Service change the rate at which tax is withheld from nearly everybody's paycheck, to take out less so that most everyone would get a slightly fatter paycheck and hopefully pump about $2 billion a month back into the economy. As ABC's Jim Hickey reports, that may well be a mixed blessing.
Like millions of taxpayers, Barbara Tofolo has more money taken out of her paycheck than she needs to cover her income tax payments. As a result, she gets a refund from the Internal Revenue Service every year.
Sometimes it's a lifesaver. It's a matter of, budgeting and things may not have worked out and I've got bills piling up or, that money's there.
As of March 1st, unless she objects, Barbara's boss will automatically deduct less from her paycheck, increasing her take-home pay. The president hopes she and other taxpayers will spend the extra money, an extra $15 or $20 a month.
And the idea is to get an immediate amount of money into the economy for consumption use fast.
Taxpayers can choose not to have their withholding decreased, but according to the IRS, they will have to file a new tax withholding form, making sure to fill out line 6, increasing the tax withheld. The president's plan will not change the amount of tax you owe. It only changes when it will be paid.
You're going to have some surprised people who will find they will owe something at the end of the year, or other people who really counted on getting a refund. It's not going to be there.
And the government won't have temporary use of the extra money. The president is betting the loss will be worth it if he gets that $25 billion shot in the arm for the economy. Jim Hickey, ABC News, New York.
Now, there's another plan for improving the economy which will require congressional cooperation. The president wants to give the housing industry a boost by offering a tax break to people buying their first home. Here's ABC's Stephen Ogg.
The president's plan to give a $5,000 tax credit to first-time home buyers brought cheers across the country. From this couple in Virginia.
It's definitely an incentive to get us into a house. It's going to make us maybe look a little harder, and try to move a little faster.
The extra money would help this Ohio couple.
We have enough for the down payment, or for the down payment, but we don't have enough for the closing costs and the little incidentals that go with that.
Richport Homes of Atlanta sells 75% of its homes to first-time buyers, the people who would benefit from the president's proposal.
If, in fact, he can maneuver this through Congress, then we are going to be looking at adding more people, at starting more homes, and, in fact, creating some jobs.
President Bush chose housing for special tax benefits because it has lifted the nation out of past recessions. Building houses has ripple effects across the economy.
Well, it has to be a shot in the arm. We're estimating that this program could generate an additional roughly 500,000 new home transactions over the course of the program.
That could mean 400,000 additional jobs, like roofers and carpenters.
I know a lot of people in this business that just hadn't had anything to do. I hope things pick up.
Other businesses could benefit as well, like appliance makers, furniture producers, moving companies, mortgage bankers, real estate lawyers. The tax credit and allowing people to dip into their individual retirement accounts to buy their first home will cost money, which the government will have to get from other programs. And there's no guarantee that these incentives will be enough to cure one of the biggest problems, lack of consumer confidence. Stephen Ogg, ABC News, Washington.
In a 1,600-page budget, you can imagine there are millions of items. Here's a small one which caught our eye. President Bush is proposing that those prisoners in federal jails who are financially well off should pay their own way, about $18,000 a year. The Bush administration figures that nearly 1 in 10 convicts can afford it. A report today on how the economy was doing as last year ended. The gross domestic product, which measures the value of goods and services produced in the U.S., was up in the fourth quarter, not up by much, 0.3%. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrials lost 47 points to close at 3224, and the trading was heavy. In a moment, cutting the defense budget and the effect that will have on defense contractors. In the other news, a new wave of Haitian refugees, thousands of them in the last week, a new dilemma for immigration authorities. And on the American agenda tonight, the scramble for government benefits, which is pitting the young against the old.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought